Throughout its history, Dot Foods has demonstrated a commitment to the personal and professional development and well-being of its employees.
Our strategic initiative here really started before I&D was kind of mainstream, I would say. So our last two CEOs, Pat and John Tracy, really saw a vision of we need talent. Talent drives our business, and there's no doubt that our people are our most important resources. And so pretty early on, they started talking about how we're going to expand our talent, how we're going to build our talent, how we're going to grow our talent in order to keep our business moving.
In 2008, Dot strengthened its inclusion and diversity initiative through the creation of its first strategic plan.
We view inclusion as everybody being able to bring their full self to work. We want everybody to feel like their ideas, their values are welcome. We want to hear from everybody because we are an innovative company. We are changing all the time. And if everybody can't bring their full selves to work, we're not going to be able to be innovative in that way. So no matter what our differences are, no matter what our backgrounds are, we want everybody to feel comfortable at the workplace.
I came on board in October 2014 as one of their probably most kind of the most bold resource, right? To be able to say, we're going to dedicate a person because it's that important to sort of drive diversity and inclusion, or inclusion, diversity, and I say both because I think it's different depending on the organization. At DOT, we feel like we need to have an inclusive environment in order for our diversity to thrive and grow, so we have the I before the D. So one of the biggest resources was, of course, me coming on board and really working with our leadership team, with Matt Holt, who is my direct supervisor, and really figuring out how do we first figure out what resources to add. And I think some of the big things that we started off with was trainings. And I know it sounds simple, and I know everybody says, oh, we do trainings, right? But I think that if you take a training and you use it as a foundational base, but then you also, on top of that, look at your processes and your systems, and you say, what systemic barriers are in place with this new learning we just learned from trainings, and how do we build upon that to create a more inclusive work environment? The unconscious bias training for us was one where we were able to take a step back and really examine ourselves. And I think when you have individuals taking a step back and first looking within, then you can have a collective group of people working together to look outward and say, what is it within our organization that we need to now do based on this unconscious bias training? It really was a training, Latanya, that taught us that biases are something that we all have, that it's normal. But there are times where our own biases can interrupt the work that we're trying to do within an organizational structure, and it doesn't add value. So that training was probably the biggest training. We then followed up with microaggressions. We know that once you do a training, you have to take those learnings and actually embed that learning into your process and systems to remove barriers so that we don't fall back into old behaviors. So I think both of those trainings combined were really impactful in us being able to move forward.
In 2016, Dot Foods affirmed goals and updated its approach. In 2018, the leaders at Dot Foods created a new plan to address the company's growth, determine where they wanted to go, and what they hoped the business would become. That strategic plan will act as a roadmap to help Dot achieve its vision for an even stronger, more inclusive workforce. It also serves to help coordinate the work of the Diversity Leadership Group, make efforts more effective, and is an important reminder to stay true to their inclusion hallmarks and the company values. It also allows them to be more accountable and transparent to all Dot employees. This plan is reflective of the needs and vision of Dot Foods, Dot employees, and the Diversity Leadership Group. More importantly, it was not developed in a vacuum, but was developed by and for the employees at Dot. To gain full benefit, the plan must be integrated into the decision-making and reporting of Dot Foods' overall planning process. Finally, this plan needs to remain in the minds and hearts of all Dot employees. People are at the center of everything Dot Foods does, from employees to suppliers, customers, and the communities where they operate. The collective accomplishments are from building a more diverse talent pipeline to fostering more inclusive teams. This effort involved a community of Dot employees. Dot Foods is changing the equation and creating a thriving workplace that hums with engaged and focused employees. To change the equation, leaders need to continue to break through hiring barriers, to multiply the talent coming in, develop more inclusive leadership, and to create environments where everyone can thrive.
When I think about the bottom line, to me, there's two areas where I think it's been a big impact. One is we've seen our turnover come down. When you build a more inclusive environment, again, that's not just for diverse people, that's for everyone. And so all people feel more welcome, more open at work. In order to attract different people, we've become more flexible, more nimble with our jobs. We are being more open to where people work, how they work, and when they work. And again, that's all good for everybody. And so we've seen our turnover drop.
Actions speak louder than words. That's why they've aligned their efforts to strengthen their results while empowering employees to be a part of the process.
We believe in one, that things that are measured get done. So set objectives, set goals, and they might be small and incremental, but you have to set an objective in order to reach for it. And then embed it into your regular processes. So look for ways to make changes to where this is just part of what your employees do, not something extra, because it should just be part of their job.
In doing so, they aim to attract, develop, engage, and retain a talented team that will foster a high-performance growth culture. At Dot Foods, the strategic plan key business highlights include 5 priorities. They are to develop targeted communication strategies, greater leadership buy-in and accountability, leave no one behind, set aggressive inclusion and diversity goals, as well as embedding and sustaining inclusion and diversity principles and practices.
We're humble when it comes to successes. We had some wins, but if this were John Tracy sitting here, he would say it's not fast enough. So I think some of the obstacles that we face is the fact that it's not fast enough, that we have locations and areas that aren't very ethnically diverse, and in some cases where the gender pool doesn't necessarily lend to working in our warehouses, a desire within those groups. And so I think the challenge is really about reaching into those talent pools and really understanding, how do we continue to expand, how do we continue to make our workplace more inclusive, how do we embrace language and understand that language matters, and how do we continue to work on the things that we can move the needle on and understand the things that we may not be able to, and find strengths in other places. This work that we do, leading inclusion and diversity, is probably the most rewarding work I think that I've ever done in my life, but it is a journey. It is at times deeply hard and emotional, but those highs are equally high. And so I would just say to any company who's thinking about having an inclusion diversity effort, know that it's a slow process, and it takes time, and it takes dedication. And definitely it takes intentionality. So don't look for quick results overnight, but it will happen.